All right, my thoughts are with Mr. Muggs. We went to visit him at the vet a couple of hours ago. It's 7:20 now. We went at 5 o'clock. We shouldn't have gone. He got all excited. He started to cry, and he was screeching and barking, and they said on the chart, strict cage arrest. And here we are bugging him and getting him all bent out of shape. So we got him on steroids. The doctor took him outside to the backyard. We held him up. He was able to make a pee-pee. So there's a very good prognosis for recovery. But when you see a dog that's in pain, that can't walk, that was just perfect the day before, and they can't do surgery at this particular vet, they can only do it across the lake in Vermont, and it starts at $1,000 and it's up to $5,000 for surgery. So yeah, and look, when your bike week's coming up. Anyhow, I got this thing all back together, except I'm going to do a separate video on this for the Corvair guys. How does this piece of rubber get retained? There's no strip. I got this grill at Clark's Corvair a couple years ago. It's just a tiny bit tweaked, and I've been trying to straighten it out, and I've been tinkering and winkering with it. I just don't know how you hold the rubber in place. By magic? By glue? By duct tape? They didn't have duct tape back in 1962. So I got this grill. I think it's a 62 grill. It could be a 63 grill. Oh, that's good for it. I forget. Anyhow, I'll set that aside so I don't step on it. I've got another grill. It's not as nice. It's not polished either. That one was hand polished. This one's got the exact same bend, like someone stepped on them both. I've been playing around with a body man's hammer, just straightening things out. I've got a 64 grill, which is the grill that GM used to replace all Corvair grills, but early, of course. Lates used a steel panel with grill inserts. And if you went to your GM dealer from the late 60s on up, you got a 64 grill, which is the one I have right here. Wonder what this thing for is at the end. Anyways, if you go to a Corvair show and you're looking for an early grill, you're going to get a 64 style grill. So, I'm going to set the camera here on the ladder. Actually, I'll put it on the spare tire. And I'm going to crank this. How's that? Sturdy? I'm going to crank this baby up and fill the barn shop garage with tons of rich exhaust smoke. This is the first time I'm cranking this baby up since I put the motor back in with the rebuilt differential. And we've got lots of junk. As you know me, I'm the junk collector. So it's not going to start right up. I have to crank it to get the oil pressure up, and that's going to bring the fuel pump on, and blah, 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 blah. I hooked everything up properly. Except the battery. Yes! Have to hook up the battery. Oh yeah, nice big spark. Here goes the electric fuel pump, which should not be running because there's no oil pressure, so I've obviously wired that incorrectly. Yep. It'll stop, but it shouldn't be running until there's oil pressure. So crank her up! Be the runner. I've obviously wired the fuel pump incorrectly. fuel pump is just behind the gas tank, right over there. Where is it? Over there. And what's happening is it's running with the engine off instead of running with the engine on. So, I'm so bad at 12 volt electrics. I'm a friggin' moron. I even marked where the wires came from. 1, 2, and 3. Oh, I'm such a doofus. I can wire up 110, 220 volt house with my eyes closed. I can't figure wire up 12 volts for my life. What this is, when I had the electric fuel pump installed, you have to put a way to turn the fuel pump off, because in case something blows up, well, there we go. Got that incorrectly wired. This is number 2 here. There we go. Whoops. 2. This is number 1. This is number 3. There. What happens is if you get into an accident or the engine stalls, the electric fuel pump will just keep on running, and you can't put a manual switch. No, 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 because you may hit the windshield or the stickum in the gut steering column. So it's imperative that you have an oil pressure switch that turns off the fuel pump. It also turns on the fuel pump when you build up oil pressure. Anyhow, I have one of those. It's just crudely wired, and I'm going to put a switch in the interior because the wires are already there. I'm going to put a switch in the interior so I can prime the carb, because when it's been sitting and the fuel evaporates in the carb, the wonderful ethanol the government forces down our throats, that ruined my snow, my lawn tiller's carburetor, fuel lines. I can press the button and prime the carb, so I'll crank it for a few seconds instead of 30 to 45 seconds and burn the starter up. So now when I turn the key on, nothing until I crank it and build up oil pressure. It's wired correctly, I just can't read 1, 2, 3 properly. Smells of raw fuel. One of my wheel cylinder cups just fell out. That goes in there. Just the friction from the oil. Checking for exhaust leaks. Rumble, rumble. Turbocharge. Flowmaster. Yeah, they tick. Tick, 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 tick. These are original GM lifters from 40 years ago. All the bearings are new bearing, new alternator. It should have a generator, but I didn't want to bother. Just put an alternator on. Well, she runs, and I put it in gear. I won't show you, but I put it in gear and nothing's crunching. So I've got to fix that wheel cylinder up a little bit. It's a little slimy in there. I'll spray it a little bit. And this one here, even though I rebuilt these twice, took them apart, honed them, cleaned the pistons up, seized again. Don't understand why they would seize. It isn't like this is a rusty car. I obviously never drive it in the winter. I hardly use it. The barn is just typical, somewhat damp. It's just your average barn. rusted. Yeah, one day I'll bring it to Pisser and we'll weld some steel in there, or I'll do it. Undercoating has preserved it pretty well. There's a little bit of rust in here. There's a little bit of Bondo. And the same thing here, just a little bit. It's probably a rot hole right there. The floors are not that great on this car. One day I'll put some floor pans in. Got a hole there, a dent, some thin. There's holes in the front from water collecting on the floors from rain convertible leaks. And got a hole way up front. There's the electric fuel pump bolted to the floor. And there's the holy floor. But not rusty underneath. Rusted from on top. Well, one day I'll take the floor pans, cut them out. Missing my anti-sway bar. Someone sent me a link, I lost it. It's around somewhere buried. No front anti-sway bar, just like Chevy made it in 1960. Spyder. Alrighty, thanks for watching. So I've got a spare lighter windshield sprayer switch. I want to put that there. Maybe I'll move this one over without hacking things too much and have an auxiliary lighter plug for my accessories. And I wonder how to straighten the grill. What's the technique to make this grill straight? Because mine's just a little tweaked. It's not too bad, but solution? How do you fix it up here?